Women musicians and singers are a very important part of modern Irish music, but that wasn't the case until the late 30s. Between then and the mid-1950s, 5 very unique, powerful and influential women changed all that.
She was just an incredible singer, so natural and obviously never elocuted, and she had that lovely Western accent.
Her voice was like a clarion call. It was just had a great cutting edge to it, and then when you learned a bit about her, you knew why she was such a striking performer, because most of the time she was a genuine street singer.
You couldn't have got a better voice with a harp, you know, and her harp playing was she was very meticulous with her music, you know.
Her ability on the stage and her ability, you know, to bring what she was doing to the audience and bring the audience to her was second to none.
Here's a very unsophisticated wee girl from the Donegal Road who, in very short order, becomes like a major pop star.
Delia Murphy, Mary O'Hara, Ruby Murray, Margaret Barry and Bridie Gallagher were 5 women from very different backgrounds who sang mostly the same songs but in diametrically opposed styles, and they had a huge influence on the generations of musicians and singers who followed them.
Okay, what about you?
On the deck of Paddy Lynch's boat, I sit in woeful plight, sighing all the livelong day and all the lonely night.
When I played the folk clubs in Scotland and England during the 90s, I always sang If I Were a Blackbird. And one night after a concert, somebody gave me a cassette of Delia Murphy songs, and it started me looking at this amazing woman's life and at the songs I had learned as a child. Delia Murphy was born at the turn of the last century in Mayo, and as the wife of an ambassador, she travelled the world and kept company with the great and the glorious. She popularised hundreds of songs that have become part of Irish music, and they're part of who we are. If you were to sing the first line of The Moonshiner or If I Were a Blackbird, Irish people all over the world will immediately join in. And she led the way for the other women in this series.
I think Delia Murphy has a very important legacy for a whole range of reasons. She was a woman of her times from the west of Ireland who married, had 4 children, but was able through all that to actually have a substantial singing career at a time when women were mostly just in the house.
Down the country I will go a roving journeyman.
This sort of almost barroom territory, you know. It would have been frowned on. So she had to, dare I say it, she had to break the mould and break a strong mould.
You're right there, Delia.
Okay, here we go. And we're rolling.
I've been a moonshiner for many's a year. I spent all my money on whiskey and beer. I'll go to some hollow and I'll set up my still, and I'll make you a gallon for $2 bill.
In general, women in Ireland in the first half of the 20th century, particularly in rural areas, were confined either to the house or to fairly basic jobs. Ireland was a patriarchal state ruled by the church, and modesty and propriety were the order of the day. Nevertheless, these singers took Irish songs to the world stage and were very definitely the first ladies of Irish song.
When I went to Philadelphia in 1973, I looked at the Irish Musicians Union membership between 1917 and 1971. The union had finished, and you had to be a member of the union to perform in public. And I looked at over 1,000 names in the Musicians Union in all that time, 1917 to 1971. Guess how many women there were there? There wasn't even one. Not one.
All these women singers, all very
They're all great individuals. And I suppose the stage was one of the few gateways into the sweet meadows of luxurious independence for a woman.
And if you don't like me, then leave me alone. I'll eat when I'm hungry and I'll drink when I'm dry. And if moonshine don't kill me, I'll live till I die.
You would stand, you know, almost defiantly in front of an audience and say, I'm here, and I'm going to sing for you, whether you like it or not.
Probably the one who most exemplifies this is Maggie, or Margaret Barry.
What song have you in mind? I've a thousand songs. Will you give him the old Blarney Stone? It was on the road to Bandon one morning in July. She had met a lovely Connie and she smiled as she passed by. He says, I am a stranger and I'm lonely all alone. Would you kindly tell me where I'd find that little Blarney Stone? It's a Blarney Stone.
Margaret came from Cork, and during the 1930s her voice and her banjo could be heard the length and breadth of the country. I wish I'd had the chance to see her, with her head thrown back, belting out a song. She was Ireland's best known street singer, singing the popular songs of the day, the Camalias. She was also a great custodian of traditional songs.
Where lagging streams sing lullaby, there blows a lily fair. The twilight gleam is in her eye, and the night is on her hair.
Ireland really was not proud of its own heritage. Irish people were a bit ashamed about talking of the fact that they were Irish. Were a little bit fearful of singing songs except in the privacy of their own homes.
Let's forget about that and have classical music and concerts and tenors. Liam Clancy put it to me, he said, Ireland was up to her tonsils and tenors, light opera and heavy sopranos was the order of the day.
When I started, recording became a thing, you know, it became easy to do it. You know, you could go down and take down music on tape anywhere. And this was a kind of a revolution. It opened up the whole area of popular singing with a small P.
To hear these people singing on the radio, it gave credence to the songs that we were already hearing by people milking cows, by people in the fields. Songs that we would have been reluctant to sing in polite company because we associated them so much with work and the land and farming and hard work. And these people took these humble songs, kingly songs, and brought them to a level of their own deserving.
But Mary O'Hara and other people that we mentioned, they did sing the real songs in Irish and in English. So in that sense, they were part of that revival of traditional singing and traditional songs in Ireland.
Her memory warm by Lagan silver side.
Would you welcome, please, Mary O'Hara.
First,
welcome. How are you? How are you? How are you?
Okay,
You
but
can
you're going
stay
to do it
sitting, yes.
afterwards.
That's all. Which would you prefer? Would you like
I'd prefer to get the song over with
Get
first.
the song over with?
Are you nervous,
Aren't
Mary?
I
You're
always?
not.
All right, then get the song over with first. What is it?
Mary O'Hara's contribution to traditional music was at the opposite end of the scale from Maggie Barry, very classical and purist, treating traditional songs like art songs. Like many other singers of my generation, I learned the harp in school and learned songs for the feis that had been made popular by Mary. My Lagan Love, She Moved Through the Fair, the Garton Mother's Lullaby, and of course the Spinning Wheel. Mary O'Hara came from Sligo and she became a huge international star due to her many television appearances and her concert tours of America, Australia, England and Europe. And she almost single-handedly brought the harp to the world stage.
Mellow the moonlight to shine is beginning, close by the window young Eileen is spinning, bent o'er the fire her blind grandmother sitting is crooning and moaning and drowsily knitting.
The recording process was in its infancy when these singers were around, very basic in Delia's time, and Maggie was recorded by folk historians who were collecting songs from primitive and ethnic cultures around the world. Even when the others joined the music industry, they were expected to record their songs in one take.
We, as in the record industry today, as producers, you've got access to all sorts of machinery and technology, which can flatten a singer if the singer's singing sharp, or sharpen a singer if the singer's singing flat, to make that voice sound as if it's in tune. Back then, you didn't have that facility, number one. Number two, you didn't have the time, because in those days, if you were making an album, you probably had maybe 2, at a push, 3 days to make the album.
Once I was offered the big contract with Phil Solomons, I did all my recordings in London with a big orchestra. And it used to go on for hours and hours and hours on end, you know, and I did an LP in 2 days, or 2 half days, 4 hours one day and 4 hours the next day. And I always remember the musicians saying, how does she stick it? You know, because they were tired.
The orchestra was in place, you'd learned the songs, you as a singer came in, you went into the vocal booth there. You okay, Ruby? I'm okay. The orchestra was here, and I'm the conductor. The red light comes on, the producer goes, let's go, and it goes.
Hear it, hear my heartbeat.
And that's it. The band is playing, she's singing, the tape is rolling, and that's it. And so whether it was Ruby, or whether it was Brady Gallagher, or whether it was Delia Murphy, or any of those, they all had to be good singers.
Through the lattice step lightly, and we'll rove in the grove while the moon shines brightly.
Now, love, your big chance. Get up there and sing.
Me? Sing in public?
Why not? Have a go.
Oh, I couldn't.
Where's your Irish spirit?
Well, if it'll help the hotel at all, I'll do me best.
They call him Pancho Rodriguez O'Malley, ever since he spent a holiday in Spain. He's not Patrick anymore now, he calls
calls himself Senor, and he's got the tango in his veins. When he romances the girl...
I met Ruby Murray when I was working for a radio station in Belfast in the 1980s. She had the most exquisite voice and she was charming, and her life story was pure magic. She came from Belfast's Donegal Road and rose to the heights of the music industry when in 1955, at only 19 years of age, she created a record that to this day has never been surpassed. She had 5 songs in the hit parade in the same week.
I am a young maiden, my story is sad. For once I was courted by a brave sailor lad. He courted me strongly by night and by day. But now my dear sailor has gone far away.
Ruby Murray brought a different, more sophisticated style to the singing of popular Irish songs. Like Delia and Mary, Margaret and Bridie, she sang the popular songs of the day, songs that had a particular resonance for the emigrant Irish in America and England.
A lot of the songs that say the likes of Delia Murphy and Margaret Barry and Bridie Gallagher would sing to audiences in America, they would have been to the immigrant audience. Tremendous dislocation in the lifestyle. And Tin Pan Alley comes along with an idealised version of a homeland left behind.
It had its place, people believed in it, and it kept people content and made a picture of an Ireland that never existed. It was like a Disneyland Ireland.
These songs were being written for an audience who felt a great affinity to home. A lot of them would never go home, so it meant an awful lot to them. And I suppose here in Ireland, we sometimes laugh at them, you know, these songs. But they were very important to the people they were being written for.
It was the music that kept them together more than anything else. That was the only tangible cultural baggage that they had.
And I'd follow the ship that my true love sails in.
These women tapped into that because as a woman you're part of a nurturing metaphor anyway, you know, and Ireland is the motherland, it's not the fatherland. And so the female presence with these songs, once you got over the shock that these were strong, powerful women making an assertive statement, there's something very elementally comfortable about a woman singing these songs about the past. It's your mother.
Bridie Gallagher was probably the singer who most epitomised this sentiment.
Remember this one? Sure, there's one fair county in Ireland with English glorious and red, where nature's lavish bounty, 'tis the orchard of Erin's green land.
Bridie Gallagher toured continuously in America and England in a career that spanned nearly 4 decades. I remember The Homes of Donegal was one of the first songs I ever learned, and like Delia, Bridie sang it and other songs that everyone knew, and she became a huge star doing it. She was loved by the emigrant Irish throughout the world and became known as the girl from Donegal. Her records sold in their millions and she packed venues everywhere she went. And she had a tremendous influence on Irish country singers that followed her.
On earth, just like the homes of Donegal.
The ship had sailed half an hour to cross the broad Atlantic. My friends are standing on the shore with grief and sorrow front. Trunks are all stowed down below in the great ship down O'Leary. The anchor's weighed and the gangway's up, and I'm leaving Tipperary.
All of these women had such wildly different styles of singing, but what binds them together was a fierce desire to perform, along with the adoration of their millions of fans and a real love of the songs.
I'm bound for New York City, boys, 3,000 miles away.
There was something very accessible about Delia Murphy. And funny enough, when I listen to the Delia Murphy records now, they still have that charm about them. And that's the word I would use. I mean, it was that, there was a sunniness about Delia Murphy.
Is moaning and groaning and drowsily knitting.
Ruby was much more dreamy, I suppose. She had that lovely kind of a, that sort of a soft burr in her voice.
Maggie Barry, I mean, she had a wonderful, wild, pure voice that, out of necessity, being a street singer, had to rise above the humanity, the hum of humanity.
'Twas tick, tick, tack, his hammer went upon a tiny shoe. And I laughed to think of a purse of gold, but the fairy was laughing too.
Mary's approach would have been a more classical art medium.
I grew up with two extremes, in a sense, and I'm sort of in between, with the pure traditional Irish, I mean the real thing, the real Russian dove and the real Unawan, not a sort of diluted form, in Gaelic, of course. And I also grew up nourished by hearing the Radio Ireland Light Orchestra every Saturday night. They had a concert.
Bridie, for a start, very different voice, very different voice. She had the real Camaglia voice.
She had that great lilt that I suppose some people here would call it a nya.
Not heave the sun through the casement shines.
So I suppose the way that people sing depends on where they're coming from and where they're going to with it.
I can't think of two more diametrically opposed images than Mary O'Hara with her harp singing a Thomas Moore song, and Maggie Barry, you know, out there singing in Newry Market, singing the Flower of Sweet Strabane or the Wild Colonial Bye. You know, they come from a different place in the tradition, and in a sense Ruby Murray is totally different than Maggie Barry, and Mary O'Hara is different from both of them, and Delia Murphy is different. So each of these women have to be honoured as distinct artists in their own way.
Here were these bunch of, 5 female singers who all achieved profile and success, all dealing in different kinds of music with different kinds of voices, and all very different personalities as well.
Without Delia Murphy, Ruby Murray, Mary O'Hara, Bridie Gallagher or Margaret Barry, life for me and hundreds of other singers, male or female, would have been very different. It has been my privilege to celebrate the lives of these brilliant women, the first ladies of Irish song.
Phil Campbell Songbirds. CD available now.